Why did God give him the vision? We don't know that. Maybe it's to sustain him. You know, he's got a lot more bad stuff to go through.
Right.
And every time and no wonder then that he could write in 2 Corinthians and in Philippians and say, boy, I'd like to be with the Lord. You know,
it would increase his dependency on God.
Yeah, that's so. So I suggest that this vision, whatever it was, and if Paul's not sure, then I'm sure not sure. Okay, I don't know the whole thing there, but whatever it was, he was able to better face trials because what he went through, but God would not let him talk about it. At the bottom now, put torments. When Jesus walked the earth, all the spirits of all the dead went to the Hadean realm. That I know for sure.
Well,
I don't have any question about that.
The Hebrew word for that was Sheol, right?
Yeah, the grave. Yes, Sheol's the grave, and that's where it's the separation of body and spirit. James goes into more detail when he says the body without spirit is dead. In the Old Testament, you really don't quite get that, you know, but yes, that's correct. Sheol would be their, I think, would be the word they would use. Okay, but now all of a sudden, in the book of 2 Corinthians, paradise is described as the third heaven. And we've already been through that. We've already said, well, first heaven's where the birds are, second heaven's where the stars are, and the third heaven's where God is. Well, if he was caught up into the third heaven and it's paradise, then what happened? All right. My contention is, and I'll be glad to share with you if I have not already, the writings of F.G. Allen. Brother Allen wrote on basically where are the dead. I mean, he wrote 2 different sermons on that subject. And Brother Gus Nichols took the same view as Guy Inwoods. That, by the way, I'm not racking those up to say one thing's right or not. I'm just saying the 2 biggest brains in that era, Nichols and Woods, both originally believed that the Hadean realm is that way today. That you got paradise, gulf, and torments. But then Nichols read F.G. Allen, and F.G. Allen converted him. And he came to believe that when Jesus died and was buried and rose again, that he moved paradise to heaven. Now, it's still only spirits there, not a complete spiritual being. That because it's a spirit without a spirit body. And that's difficult. It's a spirit without the eternal body that Paul talked about in 1 Corinthians chapter 15. Okay, is everybody with me so far?
Yeah.
All right. Now go to, besides what we've already read, look at Philippians chapter 1. And Mike Taylor, if you'd read Philippians 1, 21 to 23.
Philippians 1, verse 21 through 23.
Yes.
For me to live is Christ, and to die is gain. But if I live in the flesh, this is the fruit of my labor. Yet what I shall choose, I would not. For I am in the strait betwixt 2, having desire to depart to be with Christ, which is far better.
Okay, now wait a minute. Where's Christ right now? Where did Peter say he was on the day of Pentecost?
Right hand of God.
Right hand of God. So therefore he's in the third heaven, right?
Yeah.
So here's Paul saying, I want to die to do what? To go be with the Lord, to be with Christ. Well, if he's going to be with Christ, then he's going to be in the third heaven. He's not going to be in the Hadean realm, in the sense that we described it before in Luke. That image not going to be there. Now, by the way, don't you remember earlier in 2 Corinthians that he said he'd rather be absent from the body and present with the Lord?
Yeah.
You remember that discussion?
Yes, sir.
All right, give me the verse on that. I know it's I think it's in chapter 4, but it's hard for me to watch you guys and talk to you and look these things up. I think it's chapter 4. Somebody got that or no?
Chapter 4.
Is that where it is? Absent from the body, present?
That's dealing with the
Okay. Here,
it's
2
not
Corinthians
chapter
5.
It's
Chapter 5.
It's chapter 5.
And it begins at verse 6.
Yeah. Therefore,
Now I'm going to back up to 5. Now he who has prepared us for this very thing is God, who has also given us the Spirit as a guarantee. So we are always confident, knowing that while we are at home in the body, we are absent from the Lord.
mm-hmm.
So, wow. Again, that leaves an implication. When I'm absent from the body, then I'm present with the Lord. Okay. So I now believe, and I'm telling you honestly, and by the way, don't make a big deal out of this. You'll upset the brethren to no end. So my approach to this is to just say, at most, to say, here's some things to think about. Why does Paul say this? Why does he say this? And leave them with that. Let them think about it. Instead of saying that I think paradise was moved, because you're going to end up confusing them, and I don't like to confuse people when I teach or when I preach. So just say, why does Paul say this? Why does he say that? And use that as a means of talking about it. But it appears to me that he was caught up where Jesus is, and that all the more reason, brethren, why he could not tell what he saw. The only one that's given the opportunity to tell anything about heaven is John, and that's in the Revelation. And even he is limited in what he can say. In fact, part of it's sealed up. We're not going to know.
And it's also written in code, kind of.
It is.
So that only the faithful would be able to understand what he's talking about.
Right.
Well,
so what was the purpose of Paul's vision? We don't really know. Why did God give him the vision? We don't know that. Maybe it's to sustain him. He's got a lot more bad stuff to go through.
Right.
And every time and no wonder then that he could write in 2 Corinthians and in Philippians and say, boy, I'd like to be with the Lord.
It would increase his dependency on God.
Yeah, that's so. So I suggest that this vision, whatever it was, and if Paul's not sure, then I'm sure not sure. Okay, I don't know the whole thing there, but whatever it was, he was able to better face trials because what he went through, but God would not let him talk about it, and that we know clearly from what he says here. God does not allow him to talk about this specifically.
Brother Hampton,
Yes.
I'm thinking about 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 19, when it says, by which also he went into preach unto the spirits in the prison, and the understanding that Jesus went into the Hadean world and proclaimed, they knew that he was the Christ. They seen it and understood that.
I don't buy that. I'm sorry. I don't. I'm
that's
not
why that's why I'm asking the question, because
Yeah.
I heard somebody say that.
No. How did Jesus preach to the spirits in prison? He preached through Noah. Noah preached, and by the way, Peter tells you that in a sense in 2 Peter. See, you're that reference you and Mike. I'm not after you or whatever.
No, that's why, brother. That's why I bring it up.
Miss Teresa sometimes said, Gary, they're gonna think you're mad. I said, no, I'm not mad. I'm just excited. I'm excited about it. Listen to this. Verse 5 of 2 Peter 2. And did not spare the ancient world, but saved Noah, one of 8 people, a preacher of righteousness, bringing in the flood on the world of the ungodly. Noah preached to them, and these spirits now are in prison, Mike. They're now in torments. Why are they in torments? Because they ignored the preaching. For 100 years, while he's building the ark, Noah preached to these people, and he's saying, you better save yourselves because there's a flood coming. And they laughed at him. They made fun of him. So now those spirits that Christ preached to through Noah are in prison in the Hadean realm. That's my take on 1 Peter 3. That's verse 19. Okay. Notice who formerly were disobedient. He went and preached to the spirits in prison. It's a difficult passage. I'm not going to argue with that, but that's my understanding of it.